So, picture this. It was a working night, prime time for TV, 8 p.m. More or less everyone and their families were settled into their homes. The major form of entertainment then were the weekly episodes of Spanish operas AIT aired at the time and ran for an hour, interspersed with ads. The television was the major source of entertainment, and the year was 2008. It was memorable in my home, especially this soap opera, because it had done the impossible. It captured my mom's interest so fully that she actively made time to watch it with the rest of us. Myself, my siblings, and extended family that lived with us at the time. My mom was a working mom and she had crazy work hours. So usually she felt exhausted, usually too exhausted to participate in family bonding like TV time. But this was different. So different that one such day is when NEPA, that's the old name of the power company in this country, took the light. She instructed for the generator to be turned on, just so we would not miss a pivotal scene of the episode for that week. A major rule she never ever broke. We never turned on the gen, never to 12 a.m. or 11 p.m., the earliest, I mean, for chasing away the heat when we slept, never for entertainment, never for that sort of leisure. So I will never forget El Cuerpo de Deseo. In fact, I treasure it. El Cuerpo de Deseo, second chance. I don't know if I pronounced that right, but like, allow me. It had something, certain features, plot lines that Nigerians are obsessed with. Life and death. More like death of the body and what happens to the spirit after death. Where does the spirit go? Because Nigerians are fostered from birth to believe in a God, a spiritual, all encompassing Father in the sky who also determined what happens to your spirit after death. They are taught to believe in Him as a kind, loving, and most importantly, just God. One that created morals and gave them laws which they are to uphold and which they are judged by every moment of their life, even unto death. Anyways, El Cuerpo had heavy Catholic themes. I think most soap operas of Spanish, Mexican, or just Latin American origins have a Catholic nature to them. Most all the characters are practicing Catholics. They have scenes of confessions, interactions with God, and the driving motives of all the plotline, Catholic guilt. So, a narrative, just consider it a narrative where you could occupy a random human body, your soul could push out another human soul to met out justice on delivery with your omniscience. Doesn't that sound like interesting? But, like, how does that align with God and His ways? Well, it meant Don Pedro would get justice, and God means justice. Those family members did him serious wrongs while also breaking the commandment God overall had laid out. Christians don't call it karma, they call it punishment, the wrath of God. So we enjoyed it thoroughly. God defeats evil always. But as a grown adult who has thrown away religion and my vision has been cleared of the cloudy haze of its bloodthirsty nature, let's take a sort of retrospective walk through memory lane. Was there any justice truly achieved by Don Pedro's second coming? What about this random human body? Was it random? And most importantly, was that fair? Where was God in all this before Don Pedro's murder? Salvador's body was stolen. Andre and Isabel's affair. I want to come to the end to answer this one question. How did we assign credit and blame to God? And what were the standards of this? To begin answering those questions, we have to start from the beginning. It's the period before Don Pedro's murder. Now, Don Pedro was a millionaire with innumerable assets. He was also a sort of benevolent one, the kind that valued family, that helped communities. His daughter Angela had his entire heart. It was also how he raised Andre Corona. He took him in as a child from the streets and trained him to be somewhat of a second in command. Andre was ruthless, conniving, and money focused. So Don Pedro's ways seemed sluggish and ancient, especially regarding the running of the company, which he expected to be handed to him upon the Don Pedro's passing, of course, because like Don Pedro only has a daughter. Like, of course, he's not going to give the company to a woman. Don Pedro was an old man, sick with failing health. But Andre could not wait, so he came up with a plan. He put up his girlfriend, Isabel Arroyo, up to seduce Don Pedro. Once she was within the family, she would be tasked with killing Don Pedro. Meanwhile, both of them shamelessly continued their affairs within the mansion, biding their time till his death. Anyways, just before his death, Don Pedro met with a witch doctor randomly who sort of gave him the OT, about his readiness for transmigration. Only Don Pedro had a vision of the body he was, going to transmigrate into, his soul was going to move into. But he didn't have an ID for this man. Then Don Pedro died by poisoning. It was slipped into his wine, if I remember correctly, to induce heart failure, to make it look like a natural death. Before then, he's not like he had a healthy heart, like he already had a very bad prognosis for the end of his days. Immediately upon his death, though, his soul floated all the way to a small farmland on the outskirts of the city into the body of a hardworking laborer named Salvador, and he immediately occupied that body. All of this happened while God watched. Now, in all of the commandments, as far as I can remember, in the Bible, there was no commandment or provision for where a soul pushes out another soul. So I guess that's out of God's jurisdiction. Maybe the realm of soul is out of the control of any sort of spiritual authority. Okay, good. Let's allow that. What about Salvador though? Salvador was still alive in this realm. He had all the requirements to be here on earth, a living body and a living soul. But somehow, a millionaire business mogul soul got full occupancy of his body, and we went along with it. We even rooted for him to get the justice he deserved. We called it righteous because he was no longer in the realm of physical, of earthly proportions. Meanwhile, his life and the end of his life were a result of conscious choices he made. His entire family, especially his beloved daughter, strongly opposed his marriage to Isabel. Age gap was the biggest, confrontation point, and then also allowing her aunt to move in with them because she was married to him. So here is the crux of my argument. If Don Pedro deserved this spiritual string pulling, to get the justice he deserved, why not just prevent his death entirely as God? Why not prevent the poison scheme or expose Andre and Isabel somehow? But Don Pedro worked out his own justice and gave himself a dashing young, conventionally attractive body while doing so. Yet the commentary of everyone around me back then gave all the credit to God. God is the epitome of justice, so of course he orchestrated the transmigration of this man's soul into Salvador's body. The next question is, what about Salvador's body being stolen? Do not steal. That is a literal commandment, okay? This is clear cut in the Bible. Do not steal. This is under God's jurisdiction. After Don Pedro was done with his revenge, he fell in love with Isabel again, and Isabel as well fell in love with him anew. Of course she did. Like, look at the material. Like, look at Salvador's body. It was nice. And Don Pedro also had a nice personality. He was kind, he was fair, and he was just. Then, to end it all off, they decided to commit a double suicide. All of this seems like chaos. There is no order, there is no ruler, there is no control, there is no guidelines to this kind of events happening in this soap opera. Don Pedro decided to kill a body that was not his as his final hurrah of love. Like, can you even begin to process the blazing audacity? Like, as an adult now thinking about it, it's like, why did I root for this clown? While his wife, Salvador's wife, searched high and low, she was stressed out by Don Pedro's family and prevented from seeing her husband even. because she was uneducated, she was poor, she was dirty, she was a farmer, you know. But like, still, give this woman a husband. She wasn't granted that. If this was not a soap opera, if this was the horrors of human existence, like real world issues, poor clueless Salvador's soul would die along with his body, a passive spectator in his own life, believing that the drowning of his body meant death. I mean, picture it. At the point of dying, Don Pedro was already dead, so his soul could just exit the body. But when Salvador came into his own body, in that moment where his body was already giving up, like in drowning, like there's no more air being passed into the lungs, and the lungs start to collapse. And in that moment where his lungs are collapsing and he's trapped, you know, in a car, you know, with some random stranger by his side, like somebody that does not have, like, some people would give up, you know, most people would give up. They'll be like, oh, they just woke up from a sleep and they're drowning and they die, and nobody else would be the wiser. Like, who do you call for justice in this case? And that's why I go into my statement. Where was the justice of God for the sake of Catholic Salvador and his family? But Salvador brought himself back to life. He didn't go along with the colonizer soul occupying his body. Yet again, Salvador coming back to life was credited to God. Thank God he came out of the experience alive was what I heard watching the show, watching that moment. It seemed to be a running thing in the show's commentary that God was aware and allowing of everything that happened. There were priests being confided in, confessionals had by characters to absolve themselves of sin in God's eyes, which happens instantly after you perform the rites given to you by the priest or mandated to you by the priest. Anyways, more important to me was this clear polarity which resonated in real life commentary around me. The blame and guilt is on you, and the credit for every good thing that happens to you is given to God. Justice, punishment, righteous doling out of faith is all God. But the colonization of a body, and in some cases land, affairs, poisoning, stealing, kidnapping, lying, murder, suicide, all of the intrigues of this soap opera, which happens in real life, are faulted rightly so on the characters and in real life people. There is no conclusive statement for this commentary actually. Instead, I want to encourage an enthusiasm for questioning, especially the religious people in this country, the religious circles in this country. But then, that's also the first thing you are taught as a child. Being conditioned to serve God. Never question God. Save those questions for yourself. Question your own voice because, like the Bible says, and I quote, the heart is deceitful above all things and desperately wicked. Who can know it? Jeremiah 17:9. Banish your truth. Banish your own voice. Invalidate yourself. Deny your desires and dream. Everything that comes out of you is tainted by sin. The fundamental shame of your being inherited from Adam, that only blood shed from the incomprehensible violence of crucifixion can save. Thank you for your time. So, how was that? Like, this video was born out of me actually spending all of my weekend watching a Korean soap opera, like a makjang is what they call it, and it has like 132 episodes. Like, be for real, please. Like, this is a show that is meant to be watched like every week, like, or bi-weekly, like every week on a TV station or something. But like, TV is just obsolete for me right now, and for a lot of people around me. Like, everything is on my phone, so what's TV going to do for me? But either way, it's just like I started the drama months back this year, early on in this year, and the intrigue was so annoying and irritating that I was like, no, I can't deal with this injustice, I can't deal with this unfairness, madness going on when I know who the culprit is. So like, I think maybe I'll make a video for that drama. But anyways, I made immense progress this weekend watching it. I mean, I started from, because there's 132 episodes, and the way the site I'm streaming it on has it in sections 1 to 50, 50 to 100, 100 to 132. So surprisingly, I started 50, and I'm near the end. Like, I'm almost to 100 right now, and it's like amazing to me. I don't think I've ever done that straight, and now I've talked about it, maybe to stop, but like whatever. I was just happy, and then I was watching this drama. I started thinking about soap operas I watched as a kid and how much I those soap operas impacted me. Like El Cuerpo de Deseo, Second Chance, is kind of like the last. No, after that one, there was another one that everybody watched as well. I mean, everybody. I mean everybody around me. Like, I went to school and everybody's talking about it. That kind of everybody. You get, maybe not the whole country, maybe not outside of Lagos, but like everybody I knew in my vicinity was watching those soap operas. There was like Paloma. No, there was Diego and Paloma. When You're Mine, but I didn't follow When You're Mine. It was too, the timing was off, you know, it was not communal watching, it was just like, I don't know, everybody else was talking about it, but I was not interested because I was reading books that had more of that kind of drama, so what concerned me. Then the next one was Paloma, and no, the next one was Catalina and Sebastian. I'm confusing them because it was the same main characters. Paloma and Diego was so tragic, but Catalina and Sebastian was full of a lot of misunderstanding tropes and all that. But eventually, like, I saw them have a happy ending. I don't know about Paloma and Diego, and I don't know where I can find it to stream again. Ah, God, nostalgia. But anyways, after Catalina and Sebastian, somehow El Cuerpo de Deseo in my own house just, it was as if somebody just somebody lit a spark on kindling, and it just took up like a blaze. All of us were watching it, were stuck, were hooked and everything. So like this drama, watching that, the way I was hooked, the way I am hooked, and interested in the plot lines developing and all the characters, it just reminded me of El Cuerpo, and I was like, now that I'm an adult, like, what do I think of El Cuerpo? And there's been a lot of changes as an adult, the whole training with religion and all of that. So it's like, let me just try to write something out of it. So most of the thing I was just reading off of my script, as you can see. And I decided to get like dressed up for the event because it's like, it's for Sunday, let's give it to God. So thank you for your time, thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Subscribe. Bye.